Hi, this is Rachel from the Dotting Center. Welcome back to part 2 of our exciting paintbroidery series. In case you missed it, paintbroidery is not an actual thing, but more of a mashup of painting and embroidery. It's two great arts that art great together. It's like peanut butter and jelly, Mick and Keef, Netflix and chill, orange juice and toothpaste. Oh wait, no, not that one. Gross. The first 3 were good, but definitely not that last one. So if you're into it, go ahead, sit back, relax, grab all your materials, and let's get into our part 2 of our paintbroidery series. Now, if you haven't already seen part 1 of this series, you're definitely going to want to check that out first. I'll link a card in the top of this slide, and then down in the description, I'll leave a link for that video. Basically what we do is we go in depth into all the tools you'll need. We'll go into the paints that we're going to use and the special mix to get these paints to the exact consistency that we need. And we also show off how to make a fancy blended gradient base coat using a Lazy Susan. And then the design stops at right about here after we get that center flower done. Now this is part 2, and we're going to continue this design, expanding those flower petals with some of the larger tools in our set. And this part is really fun. We're going to use some new shapes, and we're going to get right to there. And then the final part 3 is where we go through and we expand even further all the way almost to the edge of the canvas. And then we go in and add some more paint for some dimension, and then finally remove all the chalk lines and finish it off. And then you can take it and go hang it on your wall as an example of your new favorite art form, paintbroidery. Okay, so let's just jump right in. We're going to use Deep Violet and the number 10 tool to place a point on each one of these petals that's unfolding from what our previous video showed us. So you'll just place your dot so that it fits in the space right there, and then drag that kind of bubble of paint in the center out with your stylus tool so that it makes a teardrop shape. Now we're going to use gold with the number 9 tool and just place a large dot right in between those outer petals all the way around. And now we're going to place magenta dots on either side of that purple teardrop and just continue to dot that outer edge of the petal. Now we're going to go in with the Naphthol Crimson for a color change, but we're going to use that same tool. So this Naphthol color was really new to me, and I found it to be a really intense, highly saturated red. This is another reason why I love to get a paint sampler set, because it exposes you to so many colors that you wouldn't normally pick. And you can learn a great deal about all of these different colors by, having them all at your fingertips. I have 48 colors now that I get to figure out what they can do. But hey, you know what I think? I think you should like this video. And for extra bonus points, I think you might want to subscribe. And if you want to get notified when part 3 comes around, you might want to hit the bell icon, because that'll tell you exactly when it's posted. God, there's so much you have to do. Get a like, subscribe, hit the bell. Ugh! Now we're going to use some bronze with a small stylus tool and just create these little flourishes on either side of those big teardrop shapes. This is just a 3 swoosh design flourish. Yeah, you know, because like in the biz we call it a triple swoosh flourish. Triple swoosh flourish. Try and say that 10 times fast. That's how you know you're a professional. Now we're going to use copper and the second to largest tool, number 13. We're going to place 2 dots on either side of the tip of those purple teardrops, and then see how the paint just pools up right in the center. Put a stylus tool in between each one of those sections of thick paint and just draw a big comma from one dot to the other and kind of conjoin them together. It's I don't know what kind of flourish this would be called, but you basically just draw towards the center and then complete that arc along the bottom so that it's kind of like an upside down C. Now, at this point, when you are using dimensional paint, you need to think about how the paint looks as it's wet, because when it's wet, it's going to give you a clue as to how it's going to dry. So this texture is going to remain even when it's dry. So you want to make sure that it's as smooth of a transition as possible, and there's not a lot of swirl. You don't want to really mess with the paint too much. You want to try and make this transition. Oh, I got a granudgy, so I had to pull that out. But then you just want to smooth it out with as little amounts of lines as possible, and then move on. Now we're going to connect a smaller teardrop shape in each one of those sections up to the bigger purple teardrop so that it's like a double-sided drop. And now we're coming in with bronze, and we're going to make a arced teardrop shape, and you can see that I'm kind of paying attention to how that paint flows. So I'm not going to have my tool go in any way that doesn't go along that arc. We know, especially because this is metallic paint, the mica bits inside the paint are going to flow in the way that your tool goes through that paint. So you just want to be aware of that. And now we're going to place a big old dot of naphthol crimson, which where I'm from we call it red, but you know, whatever. So the same deal, you just place a big dot, and then using a stylus tool you just direct it into that petal, right at the tip of each of those petals. And really load up your tool. You can even dot that twice if you'd like. But one of the really fun elements of this project is having dimension be another thing in your toolbox that you're using. So just as the embroiderer would use different stitches to get different effects, textural effects, like there's like the French knot that gives you those nice little tiny knot looking balls, and then there's the satin stitches which give you a nice rounded smooth look. Like I think that this adding dimension to your paintings is just such a cool thing. Like it's like brush strokes, only smooth brush strokes from dotting tools. That's where we're at right now. So now we're going to add swooshes that add dimension to these lines. They're going to look like tubes, like little tubular shapes extending out and up. So you place a swoosh in various sizes going up this shape. Now that one was a little wonky, so I just took it out with my silicone tool and redid it. So the swooshes start at the top, and then you drag down in an arc down to that outer edge, and then extend it up. Okay, it's time to grab the biggest tool in the set. We're going in with number 14 in quinacridone magenta. And now you can see that when it's placed and when it's wet, it looks like that medium pink color, but it will dry really dark, and that's okay. So you want to place a big pool right in the center of each of those arced shapes, and you can dot that twice to really get a really nice big pool of paint. And you want to make sure that your paint is the exact right consistency for this, because any issue with fluidity or flow of the paint is going to show up 10 times more in a big dot like this. But wow, these are so fun to place big dots like this. You can really cover some ground with these big tools. And I don't know about you, but I just cannot wait to make more paintings using huge dots and design elements like this. So now we're going to mix a custom shade, and at this point in the project, really what I was doing was just cleaning up some of the colors on my palette. You can use reds, oranges, pinks, and just mix a shade that is slightly different. Make sure that you have enough pouring medium. If you pull your tool up and there's a peak, you just add a little bit more medium and mix it up. And now we're going to create some pretty dotted outer edges, kind of like a lace looking edge to those big dots. So using your stylus tool, start at the top right and left side, and then just create dots until they meet up in the center. So your largest dot is going to be at the top, and then there's going to be a right arc, and then the left arc and then they're going to join up in the center. Now I decided to add some cadmium red light hue. It's like an orange color, and just kind of make it like a, I don't know, like a sherbet color, just kind of salmon maybe. I don't know what the color that is, but a different shade. And not only does this help clean up your palette and use up the leftover paint, but it just gives you a unique color for this small little lacy section right here. And what I like to do is place the second row so that each of the dots is in between the previous two dots, so that you basically look at the row that you did before and you place the dot in between where those dots fall. Now we're going to use one of my favorite tools. This is the flat chisel silicone tool, and we're going to place oval-like dots. So you dip the tip of the tool in paint and you just place them just like you would a regular dot, but they end up looking like cute little diamond or oval shapes. So these tools are not only good for placing dots, but they are also good for erasing mess up dots. So any oopsie dotsies, you can just wipe them away very easily. It becomes an eraser, and then it becomes a mark maker, which is amazing. So we're going to extend that by adding a little bit more orange to that tint. We're just going to tint it a little bit more orange and extend it out 3 ovals to the right and then 3 ovals to the left. This is going to create a gradient of oval shapes in that arc. Here it is from the side, and you can see how those shapes are applied. And now to complete that color transition, we're just going to mix that paint in with what's left of the cadmium red light hue. It's going to basically become more and more orange as it gets towards the edge of that arc shape. And now we're going to mimic that same shape that we did in the copper, only this time with bronze. And instead of using a stylus tool, let's use the number 3 tool because it has a really wide, a much wider tip than the stylus, and I think it drags the paint just a little bit better than the stylus tool did. All right, so how are we feeling? This is the end of part 2. this is where we're at right now. So what did you all think of part 2? It's not as difficult as it looks, am I right? Give me some feedback. Let me know. How is it coming? Do you guys like this painting style? Oh my goodness. Part 3 is coming up, so I hope that you guys are ready. Next week, we are going to complete this design and just make it look super cool. There's some fun things that happen in part 3. I won't let you know what happens, some surprises. But yeah, I think it's gonna be nice. So thank you so much for joining me. And as always, you can visit me over at thedottingcenter.com for all of your dot art needs. Thanks again for watching, guys. Until next time.